What's going down, guys? Happy to be back here at the P.O. Box. I'm Pete Hoffman. I'm here with my partner, Aiden Ferdinandson. Aiden, how we doing today?
I'm doing great, Peter. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So today we have a little treat for you guys following the new year. Today's podcast is going to be centered around William Shakespeare, one of the greatest writers of all time.
Without a doubt, yeah. His work, it stretches long and far. He's been a prominent in, everyday society since he was alive. His work it's in a lot of the other writers of these days. It's phenomenal writer, no doubt.
Absolutely, for sure. And today we're going to center specifically around one of his most famous works, Hamlet. So we recently just read Hamlet as a class in English. Do you have anything to say about the book? Anything you liked? Anything you didn't like?
To be frank, I thought it was a little bit confusing at times.
Sure.
I thought it was very interesting. I also think Hamlet's kind of a wuss, if I want to be frank about it. Yeah, like I was saying, I just felt in terms of story, I felt Hamlet was a very underwhelming protagonist in comparison to other protagonists from other great works of literature.
For sure.
I felt like he was always talking. He wasn't any doing really, and I think that's something to be like a hero in these type of books. You gotta do something. He didn't. He waited till the bitter end of the entire play to do anything. I think it's kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. In terms of just, the type of character he was in this book, he was, like you said, all talk and no walk. He basically, was indecisive about any possible decision he could have ever made, and it ultimately led to his demise. But honestly, I think Hamlet was one of the most human characters that we've really ever seen, in that, he has that indecisiveness and that he has that real human emotion for a hero. He's a lot of people like to say that he's a hero. It's just not true. He's not really a hero. We don't see him do anything heroic in the play. The most heroic thing he does is have a fencing match with Laertes at the very end. That's pretty much the most heroic thing that we see out of Hamlet. But to classify him as a hero, I think is just wrong. I think he's definitely a protagonist, without a doubt. I just don't see him as a hero. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree. A hero, like I said, it's someone who is willing to go the extra mile to do what is right, whether that means he crosses the boundaries of is this to kill a king? Is that right or wrong? He knew he should do it because to avenge his father. That's what he knew to be right. He found ways to think otherwise and to wait till another time or a better fitting time for himself to do it, and that was a hero just acts in the moment.
See,
that's why.
Yeah. Now that's actually that's an area of debate actually, because some people might say, well, he did the right thing by not, killing Claudius, not avenging his father's death. But other people think that type of character and this type of dramatic play should have just pulled the trigger, and that could have made the play more dramatic. That's actually a big debating area, because then, if he kills Claudius in that spot, he, in some cases, would be considered more of a hero. But, I guess, you never know what would have happened otherwise. But, so right now we're going to get into our favorite segment of our podcast, Three Strikes You're Out. Today we're going to talk about 3 different fan theories brought up by, various fans from across the world talking about Hamlet, and we're just going to analyze these theories and basically see if Shakespeare's intended meaning was really what came across to some of these
Yeah.
readers, and we're just going to talk about that
Let's
for a few minutes.
let's start off with the ghost is not Hamlet's father, but actually the ghost of old Fortinbras. What do you think about that one, Pete?
So basically, yeah, I read this theory about 2 weeks ago. So this theory basically states that the ghost he encounters during the play isn't actually his father. I thought this one, just at first glance, I thought it to be, completely ridiculous because it's very obvious that it's his father.
So did I.
But the more I read it,
He says it.
I saw that there was a possibility that this could be the ghost of old Fortinbras. So basically, what this fan theory states is that the play begins by explaining that Denmark and Norway are feuding, and the characters all believe that an invasion by the new king of Norway, Prince Fortinbras, is imminent. Some of these theories believe that the ghost is actually a devil, a ghost from purgatory, a hallucination, or actually even old Hamlet. However, none of these characters really want to see the fall of Denmark. Old Fortinbras has a much stronger motive. Shortly before the story takes place, old Fortinbras is slain in battle with old Hamlet, and Norway claims his land, leaving Prince Fortinbras, who was the heir to the throne of Norway, without land nor a father to speak of. The spirit of old Fortinbras devises a plan to destroy the kingdom of Denmark, have his son reclaim the throne, his former land, and the rest of Denmark in order to claim his revenge on Hamlet's family to avenge his own murder. So this was actually interesting to me because this actually explains a lot of, I mean, it's obviously much more direct if we were to just assume that the ghost is Hamlet's father, but this explains a little bit more about the psychology of the ghost. I was just wondering, what do you have to say about this?
I mean, typically I'm more of a person when I read something. I like to, not have to look deeply into it. That's why this theory to me it doesn't work for me. But like, it is plausible. It does work. I mean, it has concrete, information right there. I mean, you can make a case for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more on your side as well with this one. This one just seems like a little bit of a reach. I mean, it's definitely, the guy took the time to come up with this, and that's definitely, something very intriguing.
Admirable.
Something, I mean, honestly, we'll never know what Shakespeare's real intentions are, and that's part of why we love reading his work, because, we can interpret it in whatever way we want. And this is just another example, something you might look at directly. At first glance, you might not see any other alternative options or motives of Shakespeare, but if you look deeply enough, you could find many different meanings for almost any of his scripts, and I think that's just very intriguing. So right now we're going to move into our second fan theory of the day, Strike 2, which just happens to be Shakespeare envisioning Hamlet, Macbeth, and King Lear as a trilogy. Now, I don't know if you've read any of these. I don't know if you've read Macbeth or King Lear.
I've
read Macbeth.
Yeah.
I could see how Hamlet and Macbeth are actually pretty similar in both. In both plays, his protagonist is dealing with the thought, due to an outside character or an outside force, trying to figure out whether they should kill the king. Either for their own self-gain or for, to avenge their father's death in Hamlet's case. What do you think about this potential theory? I think this is one that holds up.
Yeah, I think this one definitely you could consider this. I mean, Shakespeare was a writer who, he built on from other things. Every single thing he wrote about, kind of, it just built with each other, and it kind of, you could consider it all fitting into like, just all his writing being, it's like there's a lot of similarities with this one. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so actually, I know me and you both probably haven't read King Lear, but this is a story about, I'm just reading based on these notes right here. This is a story about the disillusionment of old age, portraying an aged king dealing with his children at the end of a very long reign. In the course of the play, Lear, who lost his wife, deals with a lack of control over his destiny as he faces the end of his life and contemplates the predicament of the next generation. So in this sort of chronological, actually this would not be considered chronological, but you could sort of see how three different lives sort of come into one. It's sort of like the uncertainty of the innocence of youth in Hamlet, even though we know he's much older, but it's sort of throughout the story you sort of see him as a younger man trying to find his way in the world. Macbeth is obviously someone who was powerful, has grown into adulthood, is married, and he's trying to try to find that ambition, try to really find himself in adulthood. And then King Lear, obviously, he's dealing with the end of his life. And if we're going to be completely honest about this is probably the theory I think holds up. Just in terms of all the information presented, and just the fact that it's coming from the same writer in three different parts of his life. These were all three very important stories. I know. Right. Once again, we haven't read King Lear. We don't know much about it, but just from this summary, it looks like sort of like the same character in three different parts, and I'm sure he might have intended for this to be a trilogy.
No, I completely agree with that. That's you're right with the whole, three parts of your life. You grow up as a man, you grow up as like a human being, really, and you mature a little bit, and like each one of them has like a different spin on like just like what it's about, who the characters are, who you're rooting for, and I think that's that's very important with storytelling. It grows over time. It's not the same one.
For sure.
Yeah, I found it the funniest, most comical by far.
So now we're gonna get into our third fan theory of the day. Strike three. This is...
You're out.
Oh, yeah. The punchline. Strike three. You're out. Okay, so fan theory number 3. This is probably, the fan theory with the least amount of evidence behind it. Basically, it's very hard to read in between the lines on this one. Basically, this fan theory says that Gertrude was actually the one that killed Ophelia. In the play itself, they don't actually go deep into what happened to Ophelia.
They just say it happened. They just say it happened.
You just know that she drowned, and you have that famous line from Laertes, "Too much water hast thou, poor Ophelia."
Word.
So basically, this theory states that most people believe that Ophelia commits suicide. It makes sense, but what's odd about Ophelia's death is that it happens off stage, and the person who informs Laertes and King Claudius of the event is Gertrude. Now, if Gertrude discovered the body, then it's logical for her to seek out Ophelia's brother to let him know. Except Gertrude knows much more about the death than what is reasonable. She explains it in great detail. All the flowers Ophelia adorns herself with before she drowns. Gertrude knows the exact branch Ophelia initially tries to hang herself from. She describes in vivid language what Ophelia looks like in the waters, and can even say with certainty that Ophelia sings songs while she's drowning. All of this suggests that Gertrude is at the very least present at the time in question, if not the perpetrator behind it. So, Aiden, what do you think about this fan theory?
I mean, honestly, I don't think it holds up. I mean, Gertrude
Really?
didn't strike me as a sociopath, kind of. I don't know. She seemed too kind. That's why. Maybe a little bit. I don't think it checks out, honestly. I mean, even if there is connections to that, Ophelia was already a loony by the end of that. So
Yeah,
I was buying the suicide thing the most.
I actually disagree. I think there is some truth to this one. I mean,
Really?
obviously, yeah. I mean, I think it's hard to read in between the lines. Obviously, like I stated earlier, but there's something about this one. It does make sense. She is the one to alert her family.
Right. No, you're right.
That she committed suicide. She does explain the situation in great detail, and at that point there was a little bit of hostility between Ophelia
Absolutely.
and Gertrude, and
Because of Hamlet. I understand
this
that.
is one I actually think holds up pretty well. Obviously, all of these fan theories are certainly reaches, at trying to find some aspect or another to try and create their sort of alternate, story plot. But
Yeah.
this is one I think that actually, that works out in the end. I do agree with the fact that
Yeah.
Gertrude, she never seemed like the type of person to murder anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But I do agree with the fact that Ophelia was certainly going crazy, and that was apparent. But
Yeah, throughout the
that could
play.
also be a perfect reason why Gertrude would be inclined to kill Ophelia and just blame it on her lack of sanity.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. I'm gonna have to stick with my opinion though on this. I don't feel like there was anything to gain from killing her. I don't. That was seemed to be kind of. It would be excessive.
Sure.
She was already kind of mentally useless at that point in the story. It's like, what else? I mean, you're gonna make her. I mean, that's how I see it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we'll never know for sure.
I will never know.
Nope, we never will. So, just wanted to thank you guys on behalf of the P.O. Box today. We had a blast recording this podcast today.
Yeah.
I know I speak for myself in saying that. How about you, Aiden?
Oh yeah, no, it was great talking to all you guys. I'm glad we got the chance. It was a lot to talk about too. I mean, it's a very interesting play. It's got a lot of cool. These theories were very cool to talk about. Considering.
Yeah.
Get you really thinking. I thought it was great. Yeah, had a great time.
Yeah. So we just want to thank you guys, and we will be back next week, January 10th. Tune into that one, and we'll see you guys soon. See you later.
I'll see you then.